Hi, I'm Allie from Osmo Nutrition, and I'm excited to share with you today the launch of our new product, Osmo Power Fuel. And here with us to talk about Power Fuel is Osmo's nutritionist, Kyla Channell. So Kyla's going to give us some background about the product and how it came to be.
Awesome. Well, thanks for letting me pop in here with you guys. Yeah, I helped Osmo come up with Power Fuel. Again, my name is Kyla Channell, founder of Nutritional Revolution. I studied clinical dietetics at UC Davis and then went ahead and got my master's in nutrition and human performance and started my own private practice working with endurance athletes on their fueling and hydration strategies for racing. And I think a common thing Osmo was seeing and I was seeing with my athletes was GI distress. So we developed Power Fuel.
Yeah, so Power Fuel is designed for endurance athletes who need extra carbs during more intense efforts. So who is going to use Power Fuel?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I definitely see Power Fuel being a tool that is used for athletes where maybe they need a little bit more convenience for sure with fueling, meaning it's hard to maybe open certain packaging or certain products are giving them GI distress. So definitely that was a big focus here, was limiting GI distress and having it be something that they could use for long periods of time. You guys will learn here in a bit that there's a lot of customization you guys can do with Power Fuel to make it suit your needs appropriately.
Great. So there are 3 ingredients in Power Fuel. The primary one is the carbohydrate called Cluster Dextrin, which you introduced us to. So why is Cluster Dextrin a better source of carbohydrates than others?
Yeah, so we did some digging through the literature and there was a bit of research looking at digestion times between different types of sugar sources. Cluster dextrin being compared to things like maltodextrin, glucose, fructose, sucrose, etc. And cluster dextrin, also called highly branched cyclic dextrin, will digest and empty from the stomach very rapidly compared to the others, being absorbed more quickly in a smooth, lower GI distressing manner. So great tool for the athletes who are in a high state of exertion and need to get some energy in to support those long efforts.
Great, so fast, efficient carbohydrates.
Yeah.
We also have a Power Fuel version with caffeine. So we'd love to hear why caffeine is important and how that can enhance Power Fuel.
Yeah, so if you haven't ever had caffeine before, you might not know the amazing benefits it has, but caffeine can definitely delay our sensations of fatigue. So utilizing something with caffeine at certain doses, depending on when you need it during a race, can absolutely enhance your performance. And we see that across the board with a lot of research and literature looking at caffeine use in sport. So we provided that for our athletes as well as an option.
Great, so give the brain and body a boost.
Yes.
During those grueling efforts. So another thing is that Power Fuel is neutral in flavor. So this means that it can be mixed on its own with plain water, and we also designed it to mix in well with our other flagship products, Osmo Active Hydration, which is our during activity electrolyte mix. So why is it important that we have this function to be able to mix into an electrolyte mix?
Yeah, so one of the things we also saw with our endurance athletes is flavor fatigue. So making sure if you're out there for a 7-hour gravel race or an ultra trail run or something like that, is that using the same product, the same flavor for 7 hours gets exhausting. So giving the athlete the ability to either A, have something that's very neutral in flavor, that's tolerated over long periods of time, it doesn't have that overly sweet sensation, or can be mixed with a variety of different flavors of Osmo hydration products. So you can mix that up and avoid that flavor fatigue sensation that some athletes will run into when racing.
And one thing we kept in mind with this product is we didn't want to reduce the hydrating benefits of Osmo Active Hydration by adding in a fuel. So one thing we studied and tested was the osmolality. So making sure that the amount of solute found in your bottle is not greater than that of your blood.
Right.
So we recommend that you start out mixing 1 serving of Power Fuel in 1 serving of Active Hydration, because that will give you enough carbs to sustain you depending on your effort, but also make sure that those electrolytes are still serving a purpose and getting into your bloodstream so that you can maintain hydrated during your effort, reduce the risk of bonking, because the last thing we want to do is actually slow down that hydration process. So we have recommended mixing instructions here based on the osmolality and making sure that you're getting exactly what you need. So Power Fuel can also be mixed with Osmo Rapid Recovery, which is our post-exercise glycogen replenishment, protein recovery. So how important are carbs in recovery?
I would say they're probably one of the most important things. A lot of people definitely focused on protein for a while, and that does have a purpose as well. But when we think about endurance athletes and the efforts they're doing for the durations, it's a very glycogen depleting effort, meaning you're taking and removing and utilizing all the carbohydrates that are stored within your muscle, your liver, etc. So if we can replenish those in that post-exercise window, that's going to help your recovery process. It's also going to help your immune system. It's going to help the amino acids for your protein powder get into the muscle to help that tissue recovery process. So they are a perfect pairing.
Yeah. Well, it's all about recovery, and we have perfected this formula of chocolate and vanilla rapid recovery. So the Power Fuel, being a neutral flavor, is not going to diminish the deliciousness of your rapid recovery. So the other two ingredients in Osmo Power Fuel are sodium and fructose. So what's the importance and the role that fructose plays?
Yeah, so what we're seeing with a lot of the literature is that it is important actually when you are trying to go above and beyond 60 grams of carbohydrates per hour that we have a combination of two types of sugar sources. So a glucose dominant sugar source, so that's where glucose is actually the main sugar source in Cluster Dextrin, and then we have fructose, and these act on two different actually types of sugar transporters in your small intestine. So we're not overwhelming that glucose transporter solely. We can utilize the fructose transporter as well. So it allows you to get 1.5 times roughly, or sometimes what we're seeing is even more so than that if we look at other athletes are tolerating large amounts of carbohydrates of a fructose glucose combination at the level of the small intestine.
Okay.
So,
and do athletes need to also carry food with them if they are consuming Power Fuel in their hydration mix?
That's totally optional. Totally optional. So you definitely do not have to. It depends on the exertion of your effort. And maybe if it's a lower exertion effort or something that's a little more steady state, maybe you want to have a bar or something like that. That's totally fine. If it's an all-out effort, that's definitely more stress to the GI. So maybe you might have trouble digesting a bar and or opening a bar and consuming a bar when you're breathing really hard. So maybe the convenience of Power Fuel in a bottle is a better option for that type of scenario.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about sodium?
So sodium, many of you know, it's the biggest electrolyte we lose when we sweat. So we included sodium, and at this, again, specific ratio, as Allie mentioned, to get a proper absorption rate, essentially, and match our blood as similarly as we could when mixed accordingly. So we added a little bit of salt in there, and that will help give you a little bit of electrolytes, but definitely we can also mix that with our Osmo hydration products as well to kind of top off even more so.